So my name is Soledad Gutierrez, and I'm curator at TBA 21 and also curator at On Stage. And we are here today as part of the Stage Conversation series, and we are with Daniel Stigman Mangrame, that he's presenting a new piece produced for Stage that it's also available or could be visited on the Museo Nacional Thyssen-Bornemisza Misa in Madrid as part of the exhibition How to Tread Lately that will be open till the 17th of January. And I wanted to thank Daniel for joining this adventure that even though it's being presented at the very end of the first season of a Stage, it's been an ongoing conversation since, I would say, almost the beginning, finding the best way to create or to present this piece we are about to discuss. So thank you very much. And without many roundabouts, I would like to start talking about the piece we have presented.
The beginning of the piece actually started years ago when I scanned the rainforest, the piece of the rainforest, the Mata Atlântica rainforest, which is one of the 4 or 5 main Brazilian ecosystems, and actually one of the most biodiverse ecosystems of the world that I've been interested and has been already subject of many of works of mine since I came to live in Brazil. When I scanned this piece of forest together with ScanLab, this company in London, I was totally obsessed with the physical qualities. I was going to say the visual qualities, but they are almost physical, no? Because it's really 3-dimensional, so it really kind of involves you. So, of course, once this scan was done to do this virtual reality piece, Phantom, but once you have the model, the 3D model, you can do whatever you want with it. No? You can do a movie, you can animate it, you can whatever, actually. So it's been for a while already that I've been having this idea of using this raw material or reuse it in some other fashion. I've been reading a lot about the forest for the last years, also about the mythologies of the rainforest and the beliefs and the cosmogonies of the people that inhabit the forest, the traditional populations and the indigenous populations. And obviously the panther as the major predator in the world Americas has a very prominent space in all these mythologies and all these. I mean, it's obviously a fascinating animal. So I had my own part of obsession with them. Yeah. So as I was saying, I used this. Had this idea of using the environment, the digital environment of Phantom, the digital scanning of the forest for other pieces. And at the time I got your invitation, I was producing a small photo novel for the October Salon in Belgrade that is curated by Lara Marota and Andrea Bassin, which is called The Dreamers. So I was already in this mindset of dreams and etc. For this photo novel, just like a few images, I did these drawings of this little panther walking through the digital forest, and in the last page of the novel, you will find that the panther is sleeping and is dreaming the previous pages you have seen. No? So basically, when you asked me to do something for the website of the stage, I was thinking, I had several ideas, some were so simple as putting a recording or maybe a previous video, but then I thought that the environment of the stage of the website we were creating could be like a little ecosystem in itself for a new life to appear. So then I thought that I would do the animation of this panther walking through the forest, and not anymore like just a series of drawings or photographs, but really an animation. But then it became pretty early on clear that this animation shouldn't be like just a scripted animation that has a beginning and an end, but it should be like a real life animation. So basically what we did is we created what is called a procedural animation, in which there's a little artificial intelligence that is the panther that decides at any given moment what to do or where to go and whatever. So basically it's very important that the public understands that the panther is not being previously animated, but she's doing in real time what she's feeling to do, whatever she's wanting to do. So at any given moment that you enter the website of the stage or the museum, in the case, the panther will be doing something different and completely different. It's also true that the panther is somehow trapped in a loop of dream and awakening, in which every few minutes, a quarter or an hour approximately, the dream collapses and the panther wakes up again, but just to find herself in the same landscape she was dreaming she was walking through. So then she starts walking again, wandering again, until the dream collapses again. So it's like the dream inside the dream, inside the dream, inside the dream. I mean, the forest for me, it's the rainforest. It's somehow a model. It's a model of I would say a new cultural model. One that recognizes that everything is entangled and everything is interdependent. When you enter the rainforest and you see all this lushness, and all this amazing fertility and amazing amount of forms of life living together. It's a bit difficult to understand that actually the rainforest is a very poor place. It's in terms of nutrients present. So inside the rainforest, any given day, the soil is mostly sandy. There's a huge lack of nitrogen in the soil, and there's a lack of water, even if it's a rainforest, because the canopy is so thick that the water almost doesn't reach the ground. And the same with the sun. The sun also doesn't reach the sun. So actually many species of plants that are there, especially the big trees, are there waiting for a big tree to fall in order to starting to germinate. It can be years in the ground waiting for the right moment. But the thing is that what makes the forest so fertile and so lush and so rich is the amount of metabolical interdependencies that are in between the species that compound the rainforest. This is also what makes the rainforest so fragile, because once you have broken these relationships, because you are cutting the forest or whatever, it's extremely difficult to replant the rainforest, because you will need to build all these metabolical interactions, and almost every species present, and there's thousands and thousands, has its parcel, its piece. So this for me has become a model on how a body of work should be created, and how when you do a new piece brings a new light it's somehow illuminated by all the pieces that have been done before, but at the same time brings a new light to the also to the ones that were done before it, and also opens new paths into this forest for the future to come. So little by little, things are settling and growing together and enriching itself. So right now, for example, if you know a little bit of my work and you are aware of Phantom and about how this rainforest, this scan rainforest was used before, then it's kind of difficult not to think that this panther that is now wandering through the Thyssen Museum in Madrid is not somehow a spirit herself. You know?
And also, I recall like one interview of you where you were talking about how these animals affect you and how you affect them. And this is connected also what you were saying, like there is no way of not interlinking. And to me, something that was really interesting is like how the digital, how new technologies could get or add a different layer or new layer to those practices. No, like we were talking about nature, in this romanticized way of sometimes dealing with it, but also like how we take it into the digital realm and to create like a truly entangled system of connections and relationships.
I mean, for me, it's pretty clear that most of the problems we are facing today, ecological ones that are probably the main problem we are suffering and going to suffer in the next decades, it's fruit or it's directly produced by this fictitious separation in between man and nature that modernist thought has developed. No, so if you take from Descartes to the day of today, there's been like a depuration and not an evolution, but an elaboration of this separation between the res cogitans and the res extensa, as if they were two separate things. No? So this is what, looking nature as something external to us is what has allowed us to destroy nature without perceiving we were destroying ourselves. But as philosophy, morals, or science evolves, I think all these separations are getting blurred again, luckily. And I actually think that art has a very, very relevant part in erasing these clear boundaries or these clear separations in between man and nature. Technology also, so every new technology has changed the way we understand the world. So it was because Galileo Galilei invented the telescope that we realized that we were not the center of the universe. That was a huge change. Actually, it tried to burn him. So I guess virtual reality somehow it's also going to change, and obviously all this digital. We have actually never met, but I have the clear feeling that I know you pretty well already. So that's that. The whole idea of presence is going to change a lot, and I guess with the idea of presence, also the idea of belonging, or the idea of to what you are entangled, to what you are attached. And I think we really should erase this idea of individualism. It's such a capitalistic concept, and also a right-wing one.
It's sometimes like the great excuse, for development, progress, and these whole ideas that have been very much connected to also the transformation of the Amazonian forest, but all other natural resources and landscapes. So it's not only that. And one thing that I wanted to follow up on that is the idea of this entanglement and this kind of looking differently to things. I've read many references to the Ameridian thought unfolded by Eduardo Viveiros do Castro, and I wanted to go a bit deeper into that, also thinking that you manage or you work with many references that come from Brazil, like it's just like your homeland, no? Or like your not homeland, like how do you say, like you're adopted, your home, yes, no, like kind of that there is but it's a process of learning, no? It's a process of approaching it, no? That it was not given to you since that it's something you encounter. I mean, I've read like through many exhibitions, I mean, through your interest or dream of the Amazonian forest, but also through exhibitions at Tapies Foundation of Lygia Clark, Elliot Itzika, and other artists. So how you entangle that philosophy as well, or that learning process, that then we can go into the indigenous people and how you are also learning from them, no, and relate to them in different ways.
I wanted to be a biologist when I was a kid. So from 8 years old to 15 or so, I was sure I was going to be a biologist. At some point, I realized that I would never be good enough at the mathematical and chemistry part of it, which are huge. So yeah, then I decided to become an artist. But obviously, this passion for nature and for biology in general has never abandoned me. You know? And when I was a young student of art, I was extremely lucky of having Manolo Borja Villel at the Fundación Tapies that did a stream of shows that have been extremely influential to me until now. And very especially Elliot Itzika and Lygia Clark shows. Now, when maybe the show of Itzika, I was a little bit too young when I saw it, but when I saw the Lygia Clark show, I was completely blown away by it. No? And I remember manipulating one of her bichos, no? These little hinged aluminum sculptures that you can modify. And it's amazing because you can move them in several forms. You can hinge them in one direction in the other. But there's a moment where the sculpture resists. You know, the bicho resists the movement you want to do. It kind of hits you back. You know? And then I was like, oh my God, no! I just realized it very clearly and very sharply that. I was transforming the sculpture, but the sculpture was transforming me at the same time. And this completely changed my understanding of what an art object is or can do. And so, yeah, I started to research more about Lygia and then going back to Elio, and then from them to a lot of other Brazilian artists like Lygia Pape or Antonio Manuel or Cildo Meireles, etc. Also the younger generations, like Ernesto Neto, Ivana Neuenswander, Laura Lima. I mean, it's so many amazing artists that at some point I say, okay, I'm going to go to Brazil. I'm going to take the chance to visit finally the rainforest and then know more about these amazing artists. And I was supposed to come for 3 months, and that was like 16 years ago already. So never really come back. But I mean, obviously, one of the first things I did when I arrived in Brazil was to fly to the Amazon and go there and start being there for the first time. And I remember so clearly the feeling of being in the middle of a mesh of sentient beings. So it's so clear that you are not the only one, or not even the main one. Like for us Europeans, it's so easy to have this entitled position in which you are, like the master of the landscape or whatever. There you're basically food for, for the mosquitoes at least. So, and but it's so clear you are not alone at any moment. You are really embedded in a mesh of life. I was like if I had like a super strong drug or something like that. No? So I never had ayahuasca myself. It's something super fancy right now, and this also makes me, hide a little bit from it, because I think it's such a powerful technology that remove it from its origin, so its place of origin, feels a little bit absurd. But I don't think it's even necessary. Because, I talk it to the plants, I talk it to the trees, I talk it to the river. It's so clear that they talk to you all the time. You really don't need to have ayahuasca to have this feeling. But another discovery that I did there in Brazil when I arrived, and something I didn't knew about at all, because I've never been an anthropology until now. Now I'm an anthropology fan, but until then I was never read any anthropological ideas or anything, not even Levi-Strauss. And so one of these most amazing things I discovered here in Brazil is all the mythologies and the Amerindian cosmologies that are so incredibly rich, and very especially through the work of Eduardo Viveros de Castro, which is absolutely major anthropologist, incredibly influential and incredibly ambitious also in his thought. And he's proposing this idea of Amerindian perspectivism. So basically, it's almost a pretty symmetrical inversion of many philosophical ideas of Occident. So he takes the idea of perspectivism, it's been, I don't know, Nietzsche has been a perspectivist himself, and then proposes what would be an Amerindian perspectivism. And basically, he realized that for most Amerindians, if not for all of them, there's one thing that is pretty common to the Amerindian thought, that is the idea that humanity is the origin of everything. So for us, we normally understood that nature is the origin of everything. And then such a process of evolution, or such a process of cultural education or whatever, we are separating from nature. So if you take the world, you will divide it in the living and the non-living. The living you will divide in plants and animals. The animals you will divide them in superior and inferior animals. No, the superior vertebrate animals you will. So you keep slicing this world, and to reach at the end this very thin slice, which is the only human slice. No? So everything is nature, and only this teeny slice here is the human. For the Amerindians, is the opposite. Humanity is at the origin of everything. Everything is human, and so this doesn't mean that everything is a human being in the sense, like a biological sense of the word, but that humanity is at the origin. So in the mythological times, everything was human, and then through a process of myth and through a process of evolution, some humans lose their form, or become trees, become clouds, become master spirits, or panthers, or whatever. No. There's a lot of ideas regarding this Amerindian perspectivism that are super complex, and I myself still trying to understand. But basically, if everything is human, everything can be a subject. And if everything can be a subject, everything can have its own point of view of anything. So again, another inversion that happens is that objects are not something, it's not like you are a subject and then everything that is in your point of view is an object, but that you are an object or a subject or a pot or a spirit or whatever, depending on which point of view you are catch in a given moment. So you are very different if you are being watched by your child, by your enemy, by a panther, or by a spirit. This has a lot of consequences. For example, for us Westerns, to understand something, we try to objectify the thing we try to understand. We even say what is something objectively, meaning what is something in itself without the influence of ourselves. But the science has already proven that the viewer already affects the object observed. So I don't know, we still insist in this idea because we ourselves already proven to ourselves that this is wrong. But for the Amerindians, to understand something is to subjectify it. So to give it the most agency possible. So when a shaman is talking to the forest, or talking to a rock, or to a river, is understanding the amount of agency that this rock has in your life. So the Western thought is always about the individuality, about the essence, about what are the things in themselves. And the Amerindian thought is about the relationship, the alliance, the otherness. And this idea of not having objects and subjects in fixed positions, but relations of mutual transformation, for me, it's been incredibly inspiring, because if you bring that to a realm of the art world, if there's no subjects and objects in fixed positions anymore, but relations of mutual transformation, there's no artworks and viewers anymore.
That's something that's very much present, in all your practice, this idea of establishing a relationship and an object that transforms itself, creating like kind of different possibilities and different meanings, and also different status of being throughout its life.
I think this is why I'm an artist and not anything else, but I think artist has such a power to transform in very delicate, subtle, but incredibly powerful and almost definitive ways. And you can feel gigantic and looking at the land. Maybe you are looking at an artwork that is that size, but it's like a little landscape, and then you become like a little teeny person that can walk through this landscape, and then suddenly you are gigantic and you are over a world. And so you are changing in scale and space and time very quickly and very fluidly through an exhibition. I think the exhibition itself as a medium is such a rich platform. I'm always very surprised there's no more disciplines using the medium of the exhibition for putting forward their ideas or their things.
It's a way of creating spaces, spaces of encounter for encounter, and that then connections can happen and trigger. And because I think also about Dreaming Panther and seeing the relationship with the space that transforms it and creates a completely different space within the exhibition or within the museum itself. So you get immersed into the forest. That's a beautiful moment, and how you become a voyeur of something that it's somewhere else, or that recalls or reconnects with a phantom. And this idea also of the things that are, where, and maybe will be. It's also interesting, like how time also it's affected a lot by this idea. I mean, going back to the idea of nature, that's one of the part in, or the beginning, no, maybe of the podcast that it's presented together with within this week on a stage, that it's conducted by Elena Palmquist, and that departs from that idea of humanity being part of the whole construction, no, of the Amazonian forest, on how this romantic idea of really Western idea of wild nature doesn't exist. So
Yes.
if you could go a bit further on that.
Yes, I mean, I hope that that to whoever gets to listen the podcast, it will become really clear a few facts. No? The first is that Bolsonaro is a criminal and is an ecocide, and my idea is that it should be judged by the Haya Tribunal of Human Rights. The only problem is that the ecocide is not a crime still. Some work is being done about that. I really hope he's one of the first ones to get judged about that. But the other thing that will become clear is that the rainforest itself, the Amazon rainforest, that is so commonly seen as this virginal piece of land untouched by humans, it's actually anthropogenic. So the inhabitants of the Amazon basin for the last thousands of years, at least for the last 12,000 years, have been modifying the forest to their own interest. So what happened is that many of the plants that are useful for them in the Amazon, because not only for food but also for fibers or for medicinals or things like that, are plants of a really slow and really long growth. So, for example, a castañeira, it's a tree that it takes 20 years to start making fruits, and also needs all the trees around it to be fertile, to be pollinized and everything. So you cannot make a field of castañeiras; it will become infertile and will not produce any fruit. And also, who's going to plant a field of castañeras and then wait 20 years for it to start giving fruits? So what they have been doing for the last thousands of years is planting castañeras along the forest. So they knew there will be castañas available. And who says castañeras says acai, says many things. Actually, if you take the 10 plants that are more present all over the Amazon, 9 are plants that are useful for humans. So it's pretty clear that it's been like an intervention. But the amazing thing of that is that they manage not only to not destroy the Amazon, the rainforest, but to enrich it, because the more trees they were, the more animals they were. So if you look, the areas with more biodiversity in the Amazon are the areas that have been occupied by humans for the longer time. So there's been a process of co-constitution in between the humans that live there and the forest that has been created. And the animals, so the whole bioma, it's been I mean, it's very ambitious to say the humans created the bioma created the humans as well. It's been really a co-foundation.
Is this entanglement? We were saying before, and in the end, it's not so easy to separate it. And as part of these humans and this presence, it's also the indigenous people, that are kind of taking care, and there are many voices represented on the podcast. And I think that's also really important, not only in your practice, but on your life and as a person, the commitment towards their way of being also will be present on the call to action. We are inviting APIP, people to support APIP, that it's one of the movements of the indigenous people. So, how you connect to that and how that connects to you, no? How affects you and you affect that in a way.
As I was saying, I've been really interested in the Amerindian thought, and it's been one of the major influences of my own practice. No? But it's been really since the end of 2015, I guess it was, when Dilma approved under the pressure of the big part of the Congress. Approved the new Código Forestal, no? The new forest code, which legalized all the deforestation that was already done in Brazil, but also established a way in which the forest can be deforested in the future. This criminal law of the forest actually multiply by 4 from one year to the other, the deforestation in Brazil. I think that was the very first moment I got triggered to do something myself to try to protect the rainforest. And I've been thinking since a bit. But Bolsonaro just made that. So if it was bad, now it's incredibly bad. No? So now they are under attack every single day. The government has already proven that they will do nothing to punish the invasors of land. There's many invasions of land to put cows, to put the wood out, to mining and get the gold out. The mining is especially bad because they are polluting with mercury. All the rivers are killing all the fauna in the river, and also obviously killing the Indians that are obliged to drink this polluted with mercury water. And the government has again and again shown that they will not prosecute or do anything to prevent this to happen. And for me, it also become clear that the best way to protect the forest is to protect the people that live in the forest, the indigenous and the traditional populations. And from all the people around, there's amazing organizations like Instituto Socioambiental or Amazon Watch, or even Greenpeace is also doing amazing work in the Amazon and in other rainforests. But APIP is the Associação dos Povos Indígenas do Brasil. It's a huge organization that involves 6 or 7 of other smaller organizations, and they are really into day-to-day of the Congress, doing pressure in the judiciary, doing pressure on the land, doing demonstrations or fighting away the invasors, and yeah, this is how I choose them for the call for action for the rest, because they are really like the guerrilla of the guerrillas.